The doors of the throne room crashed open with a sound that echoed through the crystal halls of the palace. Princess Valara Keth Nori stormed inside, her purple skin flushed dark with anger. Her forearms were clenched into fists at her sides as she marched toward the throne where her mother sat. "Mother!" Valara shouted, her voice shaking with rage. "Tell me, this is a joke. Tell me the message I received was some kind of test." Empress Shiara Keth Nori looked down at her daughter with calm eyes. She was older, her purple skin showing the lighter marks of age, but she still held herself with the power of a ruler who had led her people through war and peace for 60 years. "It is no joke," the Empress said, "and it is no test. You will marry the human. The agreement has been made." Valara felt like the floor had dropped beneath her feet. She had hoped, even as she ran through the palace, that this was some kind of mistake. But hearing her mother say the words made it real. "A human," Valara said, spitting the word like poison. "You want me, the crown princess of the Zethrani Empire, to marry a human? Do you hate me so much, mother?" The Empress did not react to her daughter's anger. She had expected this. She had prepared for it. "I do not hate you," Shiara said. "I am trying to save our people. And theirs." Valara laughed bitterly. "Save them? The humans are nothing. They are weak. They are small. They have only 2 arms and soft skin that tears at the smallest cut. They live for less than 100 years while we live for 300. What could we possibly need from such creatures?" "Peace," the Empress said simply. Valara shook her head. "We do not need peace with insects. We could crush them if we wanted to. Could we?" The Empress leaned forward on her throne. "We have been at cold war with the human coalition for 30 years. Valara, 30 years of watching, waiting, building weapons, and preparing for a war that would destroy both our peoples. I am tired. Our people are tired. The humans are tired too." "Then let them surrender," Valara said. "They will not surrender. That is not their way." The Empress stood and walked down the steps toward her daughter. "I have studied humans for many years. Valara, they are not what you think they are." Valara crossed both sets of arms over her chest. "I know exactly what they are. Weak, fragile, inferior. And yet they have matched us in every battle. They have held every border. They have never broken, never run, never given up." The Empress stopped in front of her daughter. "Does that sound weak to you?" Valara had no answer for that. It was true that the humans had fought far better than anyone expected. But she told herself it was luck. It had to be luck. "This marriage will end the Cold War," the Empress continued. "It will join our peoples in a way that cannot be broken. Your children will carry both Zethrani and human blood. They will be living proof that we can exist together." "Children," Valara said with disgust. "You expect me to have children with a human? I expect you to do your duty," the Empress said, her voice turning hard. "As I did. As my mother did. We are royalty, Valara. We do not have the freedom to marry for love. We marry for our people." Valara felt tears burning in her eyes. But she refused to let them fall. "I have trained my whole life to be a warrior. I have led armies. I have bled for this empire, and this is my reward? To be given to a human like property?" The Empress's face softened. She reached out with one hand and touched her daughter's cheek. "I know this is hard," Shiara said quietly. "I know you feel betrayed. But I chose a human for a reason. Valara, during the last round of peace talks, I saw something that changed how I think about humans forever." "What did you see?" The Empress shook her head. "I will not tell you. You would not believe me if I did. You must see it for yourself." Valara pulled away from her mother's touch. "Fine. I will meet this human. I will go through with your ceremony. But I will not love him. I will not be kind to him. I will be so cold, so cruel, that he will beg to break the engagement himself. And when he does, you will see that I was right about humans all along." The Empress smiled sadly. "You may try, daughter, but I do not think it will work. We will see, Valara said. She turned and walked toward the window. Outside, the sky of Zethra Prime was turning orange as the sun began to set. In the distance, she could see a small dot of light growing larger as it fell through the atmosphere. The human shuttle. He was already here. Valara watched the shuttle descend toward the palace landing pad. Inside that metal box was the creature she was supposed to spend her life with. The thought made her stomach turn, but beneath her anger and disgust, there was something else. Something small that she refused to name. Curiosity. What kind of human would agree to marry an alien who hated his species? Was he desperate? Was he a fool? Or was there something else she did not understand? Valara pushed the thought away. It did not matter what kind of human he was. She would break him. She would make him leave. And then she would be free. The shuttle touched down on the landing pad, and Valara watched the doors begin to open. Her hands tightened on the window frame hard enough to crack the crystal. Her war with the human was about to begin. Daniel Carter stepped off the shuttle and took his first breath of Zethrani air. It was thinner than Earth's air, and it smelled like flowers he did not recognize. The sky above was orange and pink, with 3 small moons already visible. Even though the sun had not fully set, it was beautiful and terrifying. Ambassador Kevin Walsh put a hand on Daniel's shoulder. Remember what I told you. Be patient. Be kind. And do not expect anything in return. Daniel nodded. I understand, sir. I hope you do, Kevin said. Because that princess is going to try to destroy you. Daniel had seen pictures of Princess Valara. She was tall, even by Zethrani standards, with deep purple skin and 4 muscular arms. Her eyes were golden, and her face was sharp and proud. She looked like a warrior goddess from an old Earth myth. She also looked like she wanted to kill every human in the galaxy. I can handle it, Daniel said, though he was not sure if that was true. The first week proved that it was not going to be easy. Princess Valara met Daniel at the palace entrance on his first day. She stood with her forearms crossed over her chest and looked at him like he was dirt on her shoe. So, this is what they sent me, she said in perfect English. I expected something more impressive. Ha! Daniel bowed respectfully. It is an honor to meet you, Princess Valara. I hope we can become friends. Valara laughed. It was not a kind laugh. Friends? I do not become friends with prey animals. She turned and walked away without another word. Daniel straightened up and followed her into the palace. He had expected worse. Honestly, over the next few days, Valara made her feelings very clear. She spoke to Daniel only in rapid Zethrani, knowing he could not follow. When he tried to speak to her, she pretended he was not there. When they were forced to eat together, she made comments about how disgusting human food smelled. Daniel responded to every insult with patience and kindness. When Valara ignored him, he used the time to learn Zethrani phrases from the palace staff. When she mocked his food, he asked the cooks to teach him Zethrani recipes. When she pretended he did not exist, he made friends with everyone else in the palace. The servants began to warm to him quickly. He helped a young maid who dropped a tray of dishes. He learned the names of the guards and asked about their families. He played simple games with the children of the staff and let them win. Valara watched all of this with growing frustration. Why do you smile at them? She demanded one morning. They are servants. They are beneath you. Daniel looked at her with genuine confusion. No one is beneath me, princess. And everyone deserves kindness. Valara made a sound of disgust and walked away. One afternoon, she decided to humiliate him properly. She challenged him to a strength contest in the training yard. The entire palace staff came to watch. This is how Zethrani test their mates, Valara announced loudly. We see who is stronger. If you cannot beat me, you are not worthy to stand beside me. Minusin. Daniel knew he could not win. Zethrani were 3 times stronger than humans. Their bones were denser, their muscles were more powerful, and they had twice as many arms. But he accepted the challenge anyway. The contest was simple. They would each lift weighted bars, until one of them could not continue. Valara lifted the first bar easily. Daniel struggled but managed to lift it too. The second bar was heavier. Valara lifted it without effort. Daniel lifted it, but his arms shook badly. The third bar was impossible for him. He tried twice and failed both times. The palace staff whispered among themselves. Valara smiled triumphantly. You see? Humans are weak. You cannot even complete a simple test that our children pass. Daniel set down the bar and wiped sweat from his face. Then he did something Valara did not expect. He laughed. You are right, princess, he said cheerfully. I am not as strong as you. I never will be. But strength is not the only thing that matters, is it? He walked over to her and bowed. Congratulations on your victory. You are very impressive. Valara stared at him. She had expected anger. She had expected shame. She had expected him to shout, or cry, or demand a different test. But he just stood there, smiling at her like she had given him a gift. Why are you not angry? She demanded. Daniel shrugged. Why would I be angry? You are stronger than me. That is just true. Being angry about the truth is a waste of energy. He walked away toward the palace, leaving Valara standing in the training yard with her mouth hanging open. That night, Valara could not sleep. She walked through the palace gardens, trying to understand what was happening. This human was supposed to break. He was supposed to give up and leave, but nothing she did seemed to affect him. She turned a corner and stopped. Daniel was sitting alone on a bench, speaking quietly into a small communication device. Valara hid behind a pillar and listened. I know she hates me, Daniel was saying. I know this is hard. But I promised I would try. And I am not going to give up. She is not evil, Mother. She is just scared. I can see it in her eyes. There was a pause as someone on the other end spoke. Yes, I miss home. Daniel said softly. I miss you and Dad and everyone. But this is important. If this marriage can stop the war, then everything I suffer is worth it. Another pause. I love you too, Mom. I will call again soon. Daniel ended the call and sat in silence, looking up at the three moons. Valara stayed hidden behind the pillar for a long time. Her heart was beating strangely in her chest. He was doing this on purpose. He was suffering. And he knew he was suffering. And he was choosing to continue anyway. Why? She did not understand. But for the first time since he arrived, she wanted to. After that night in the garden, something changed in Valara. She did not become kind to Daniel. She still ignored him and mocked him when they were together in public. But secretly, she began to watch him. She wanted to understand this strange creature. Every day, Daniel woke before sunrise and exercised in the training yard. He was slow and weak compared to Zethrani soldiers. But he never missed a day. Valara watched from her window as he pushed his small body to its limits. Every afternoon, Daniel spent time with the children of the palace staff. He told them stories about Earth, about oceans and mountains and forests. He taught them simple human games. He let them climb on him and pull his hair and accidentally scratch his soft skin with their sharp nails. He never complained. He never got angry. He just laughed and played with them like they were his own family. One day, Valara saw a young boy accidentally hit Daniel too hard during a game. The blow would have been nothing to a Zethrani adult. But it knocked Daniel to the ground and left a dark bruise on his ribs. The boy started crying. He thought he had killed the human. Daniel sat up slowly, clearly in pain, and pulled the boy into a hug. It is okay, he said softly. I am fine. You did nothing wrong. Please do not cry, the boy sniffled. But I hurt you. Yes, Daniel said. But that is not your fault. I am just softer than you. Next time, we will be more careful. Okay? The boy nodded, and Daniel ruffled his hair with a smile. Valara watched from behind a pillar, her chest tight with something she could not name. 3 weeks after Daniel arrived, everything changed. There was a public ceremony in the city square. Daniel and Valara were required to appear together to show the people that the marriage was real. Thousands of Zethrani gathered to see their princess and her human mate. Most of them were curious, but some of them were angry. Valara stood on the platform beside Daniel, waving to the crowd. She felt him tense beside her, but she ignored it. Then she heard the shout, "Death to the Human Alliance!" A flash of light cut through the air. Plasma fire. Someone was shooting at them. Valara's warrior training kicked in immediately. She dropped to the ground and reached for her weapon. But before she could move, she saw Daniel do something impossible. He did not run. He did not hide. Instead, he threw himself forward, toward the crowd. A Zethrani child had wandered away from her mother and was standing directly in the path of the plasma fire. Daniel grabbed the girl and twisted his body, putting his back to the shooter. The plasma bolt hit him in the shoulder. Daniel screamed but did not let go of the child. He fell to his knees, still holding her close to his chest, protecting her with his weak human body. Palace guards swarmed the area. They caught the shooter quickly. He was a young Zethrani male, a member of a radical group that wanted to restart the war. Valara stood frozen on the platform, staring at Daniel. He was bleeding badly. Human blood was red, so different from the purple blood of her people. But he was still holding the child, still making sure she was safe. "Is she okay?" Daniel asked weakly. "Please tell me she is okay." The child's mother rushed forward and took her daughter. The little girl was crying but unharmed. "She is fine," the mother said, tears running down her face. "You saved her. You saved my baby." Daniel smiled through his pain. "Good. That is good. 70, please." Then he collapsed. Valara ran to him. She did not know why. She did not understand what she was feeling, but she could not stop herself. "Get a healer," she shouted. Now, the palace healers worked on Daniel for hours. The plasma burn was serious, but humans were surprisingly tough. They healed faster than expected when they wanted to live. When Daniel finally woke up, Valara was sitting beside his bed. She had been there for 6 hours. "Princess?" Daniel said weakly. Valara did not answer his question. Instead, she asked her own. "Why did you do that?" "Do what?" "Save that child." Valara leaned forward. "She is Zethrani. Her people hate you. Her people tried to kill you. Why would you risk your life for her?" Daniel looked at her like she had asked the strangest question in the universe. "She was a child," he said simply. "What else would I do?" Valara felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away quickly. "You could have run. You could have let the guards handle it. You could have protected yourself." "No," Daniel said. "I could not. I saw a child in danger. My body moved before I could think. That is just who I am." Valara sat in silence for a long moment. Her whole life, she had been taught that humans were weak, that their soft bodies and short lives made them inferior, that they were barely worth noticing. But this human had thrown himself in front of plasma fire to save a child who was not his own. A child of a species that hated him. That was not weakness. That was something else entirely. Later that night, the Empress came to visit Valara in her chambers. She found her daughter sitting by the window, staring at the moons. "You saw it," the Empress said. "You saw what humans really are." Valara nodded slowly. "I do not understand it. How can someone so weak be so brave?" The Empress sat beside her daughter. "Let me tell you what I saw during the peace talks." A human ship was guarding the border. They detected a Zethrani civilian transport that had lost power and was drifting toward an asteroid field. "I remember that," Valara said. "The transport was saved." "Yes. By humans." The Empress took her daughter's hand. The human ship flew between the transport and the asteroids. They used their own hull to block the debris. 40 human crew members died saving enemies they had never met. Valara closed her eyes. "Why would they do that?" "Because that is who they are," the Empress said. "Humans are not weak, Valara. They are unbreakable in ways that matter most." Daniel's wound healed slowly over the next 2 weeks. Human bodies were resilient, but plasma burns were serious injuries. The healers told him to rest, but he refused to stay in bed. "I have too much to do," he told them. "I can rest when I am dead." Valara visited him every day. At first, she told herself it was just curiosity. She wanted to understand this strange human better. But as the days passed, she realized it was more than that. She enjoyed talking to him. One morning, 2 months after Daniel's arrival, Valara suggested they take a walk through the palace gardens. It was the first time she had ever asked to spend time with him willingly. Daniel's face lit up with surprise and happiness. "I would like that very much, Princess." They walked together through the crystal trees and glowing flowers of the royal gardens. For the first time, there were no guards following them, no servants watching, just the two of them. "Tell me about Earth," Valara said. Daniel smiled. "What do you want to know?" "Everything." So Daniel talked. He told her about the blue oceans that covered most of his planet. He told her about mountains so tall they touched the clouds, and forests so thick you could not see the sky. He told her about cities that never slept and small villages where everyone knew your name. He also told her the darker stories. He told her about wars that killed millions. He told her about hatred and cruelty, and all the terrible things humans had done to each other throughout history. "We are not perfect," Daniel said quietly. "We have done horrible things. We have hurt each other in ways I cannot even describe. But we also learned from our mistakes. We grew. We became better." Valara listened carefully. "You do not hide your weaknesses. Why would I? Our weaknesses are part of who we are." Daniel stopped walking and turned to face her. "Every species has darkness in their past, Princess. What matters is what you do with that darkness. Do you let it control you? Or do you fight against it and try to be better?" Valara thought about the radical who had tried to kill Daniel. She thought about the hatred that still existed in her own heart, even now. "It is not easy to fight against darkness." "No," Daniel agreed. "It is the hardest thing in the universe. But it is also the most important." They continued walking in comfortable silence. After a while, Valara asked another question that had been bothering her. "On Earth, how do humans choose their mates?" Daniel's cheeks turned slightly pink. It was strange how human skin changed color with emotion. "Well, it depends. But usually, there is something called courtship." "Courtship?" "Yes. When a human is interested in someone, they try to show that interest through kind actions. They bring gifts. They spend time together. They write letters or messages. They try to make the other person happy." Daniel looked at her carefully. "The most important thing is that both people choose each other freely. No one is forced. Both people must say yes." Valara remembered all the small gifts Daniel had brought her over the past 2 months. Flowers from the garden. A book about Earth that he had translated into Zethrani. A small music device with songs he thought she might like. She had thrown most of them away. She had been so cruel, but he had never stopped bringing them. "You have been courting me," Valara said slowly. "This whole time," Daniel nodded. "I know our marriage was arranged. I know you did not choose me. But I wanted to give you a chance to know me before you decided how you felt. I wanted to show you who I really am." Valara's hearts were beating fast, both of them. "Even though I was terrible to you? You were scared," Daniel said gently. Before Valara could respond, a palace guard came running toward them. His face was pale with fear. "Princess, the radicals have taken hostages at the eastern compound. They are demanding that the marriage be cancelled. They say they will kill the hostages if we do not agree." Valara felt her blood turn cold. "How many hostages?" 12, including 3 children. Daniel's face changed. The gentle, smiling man disappeared. In his place was something harder, something determined. "Take me there," he said. The guard looked confused. "Sir, the military is preparing to storm the compound. You should stay here where it is safe." "No." Daniel's voice was firm. "A military attack will get people killed. I have another idea." Valara grabbed his arm. "What are you planning?" Daniel looked at her with calm eyes. I am going to talk to them. Talk to them? They want you dead. Maybe. But they also want to be heard. They want someone to understand their fears. Daniel gently removed her hand from his arm. I can do that. I can listen. And maybe, if I listen well enough, no one has to die today. He started walking toward the compound. Valara watched him go, her heart pounding in her chest. Wait! She called out. Daniel turned back. If you die in there, I will never forgive you. Daniel smiled. It was the warmest smile she had ever seen. Then I will try very hard not to die. He walked away, and Valara could only watch as the small human disappeared into the distance. She had spent 2 months trying to break him. Now, she realized, she would do anything to keep him alive. When had everything changed? When had this weak, soft, impossible human become so important to her? She did not know. But she knew she could not lose him. Not now. Not ever. Daniel walked toward the eastern compound with his hands raised above his head. He had no weapons. No armor. Nothing but the clothes on his back and the words in his heart. The radicals watched him approach from their positions around the compound. They had expected soldiers. They had expected ships and weapons and threats. Instead, they got one small human walking alone through the empty street. Stop there. The leader of the radicals stepped forward. His name was Corvin, and he was young, barely older than Valara. His golden eyes burned with hatred and fear. Come any closer, and we start killing hostages. Daniel stopped. I am not here to fight. I am here to talk. Corvin laughed bitterly. Talk? There is nothing to talk about. Your kind has poisoned our princess. You have stolen our future. The only way to save the Zithrani Empire is to end this marriage and send you humans back where you came from. Maybe you are right, Daniel said calmly. Maybe I am poison. Maybe this marriage is a mistake. But those people in there did nothing wrong. The children in there did nothing wrong. Can we at least agree on that? Corvin hesitated. He had not expected the human to agree with him. The hostages are just insurance. We will release them when our demands are met. What if they are not met? What if the Empress refuses? Daniel took a small step forward. Will you really kill children to make a political point? I will do what I must, Corvin shouted, but his voice shook slightly. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand. You are afraid. Your whole life, you were taught that humans are monsters, that we would destroy your way of life. And now your princess is marrying one of us. It must feel like the end of everything you know. Corvin stared at him. No one had ever described his feelings so accurately before. You do not understand anything. Maybe not, Daniel admitted. But I would like to try. Can I tell you a story? Corvin frowned but did not shoot. That was progress. Daniel began speaking. My grandfather was a soldier in a great war on Earth. His country fought against another country for many years. Millions of people died. By the end, my grandfather hated the enemy so much that he dreamed of killing them every night. What does this have to do with anything? Corvin demanded. When the war ended, my grandfather was stationed in the enemy's country. He expected to find monsters there. Instead, he found people, families, children, old men and women who had lost everything, just like him. Daniel's voice grew softer. One day, he met a little girl. Her parents had been killed in the war. She was starving and alone. My grandfather could have walked past her. He could have told himself that she was the enemy. But he did not. He stopped. He gave her food. He found her a family to live with. Why? Corvin asked despite himself. Because she was just a child. Because hatred is heavy. And he was tired of carrying it. Because the war was over. And he wanted to be human again. Daniel looked directly into Corvin's eyes. That little girl grew up. She had children of her own. And years later, one of her grandchildren became my mother's best friend. Corvin was silent. My grandfather made a choice. Daniel continued. He chose to see an enemy as a person. He chose forgiveness over hatred. And because of that choice, two families that should have been enemies are now connected by love. Pretty words, Corvin said, but his voice had lost some of its anger. But words do not change reality. No, they do not. Actions do. Daniel took another step forward. I am not asking you to trust me. I am not asking you to like me. I am just asking you to let those people go. Whatever happens to me after that is up to you. Corvin raised his weapon. If I shoot you right now, the marriage ends. The princess will be free. Maybe that is the best choice. Daniel did not move. He did not beg. He just stood there, calm and unafraid. Maybe it is, he said. But is that really who you want to be? Someone who kills an unarmed man who came to you in peace? Is that what it means to be Zethrani? Imarnus. The question hit Corvin like a physical blow. The Zethrani prided themselves on honor, on courage, on facing enemies in fair combat. Shooting an unarmed human who refused to fight back was none of those things. I am not leaving, Daniel said firmly. If you shoot me, you shoot me. But I will not abandon those people. I will not leave children in danger. Kill me if you must, but I will not leave them. The standoff lasted for what felt like hours. Other radicals began to shift uncomfortably. They had signed up to make a political statement, not to murder a man who was willing to die for their own people. Finally, Corvin lowered his weapon. Release the hostages, he said quietly. His followers hesitated. Sir, are you sure? I said release them, Corvin shouted. We are not murderers, we are Zethrani. The doors of the compound opened, and 12 hostages walked out, including 3 crying children. Daniel guided them away from the compound, speaking softly to the little ones, telling them that everything was going to be okay. Palace guards arrived and surrounded the radicals. There would be trials. There would be punishment. But no one had died today. Valara pushed through the crowd of guards and threw herself at Daniel. She wrapped all 4 of her arms around him and held him so tightly he could barely breathe. You fool, she whispered. You impossible, beautiful fool. Daniel hugged her back with his 2 small arms. I told you I would try not to die. 6 months later, they stood together in the great hall of the palace. Thousands of Zethrani and hundreds of humans had gathered to witness the wedding of Princess Valara Kethnori and Daniel Carter. When the priest asked Valara if she chose this human as her mate, she smiled and answered in a voice that carried through the entire hall. I choose him. Not because I was told to. Not because of politics or duty. I choose him because he taught me what true strength looks like. He showed me that courage is not about how hard you can hit. It is about how much you can love, even when love is dangerous. She turned to look at Daniel, her golden eyes filled with warmth. He walked unarmed into enemy hands to save children he did not know. He took a plasma bolt to protect a girl who was not his own. He faced hatred with patience and cruelty with kindness. And he never, not once, gave up on me. Daniel's eyes were wet with tears, human tears, strange and wonderful. I spent my whole life thinking humans were weak. Valara continued. I was wrong. Humans are the strongest beings I have ever known. And I am proud to call this one my husband. The crowd erupted in cheers. Zethrani and human voices mixed together in celebration. In the back of the great hall, Empress Shiara watched her daughter and her new son walk together toward their future. She smiled softly. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for too long. Her daughter would not make that mistake again, and neither would anyone else.